Lusaka Stock Exchange, abbreviated to LUSE, is the principal stock exchange of Zambia. Founded in 1993, it is located in Lusaka. The Lusaka Stock Exchange was established with preparatory technical assistance from the International Finance Corporation (IFC) and the World Bank in 1993. The exchange opened on 21st February 1994. The formation of LUSE was part of the government's economic reform program aimed at developing the financial and capital market in order to support and enhance private sector initiative. It was also expected to attract foreign portfolio investment through recognition of Zambia and the region as an emerging capital market with potentially high investment returns. The LUSE has made great strides since inception. It is now more than a platform for trading shares and bonds, as demonstrated by some companies from across the spectrum of industry that have used it to raise the public capital for expansion. On My Story today, we feature Lusaka Stock Exchange CEO, Mr. Brian Tembo. At such a young and vibrant age, Mr. Tembo has established himself as one of the most hardworking and prolific business icons in the industry and was elected to the Executive Committee of the Association of African Stock Exchanges on the 23rd of November 2014. Arguably, he is one of the youngest CEOs the exchange industry has ever had. Mr. Tembo told us a little bit more about himself and his trade.
Probably, I look at myself as one of the few, I think, capital market professionals in the country. In terms of background, I went to school across the line of rail because of the work that my late father used to do. Being in the bank, he would be transferred frequently. So I went to school I was born in Choma actually. So you could say I'm Tonga by birth. So I was born in Choma, went to school in Choma, started my primary school in Choma. Then we moved to Kawe, where we only stayed for 3 months, just to show how my family, my parents were frequently moving in their jobs. But we also went to school, we lived in Dola on the Copper Belt. Then we went to Livingstone in Southern Province. So I went back to the province in which I was born, where I've completed it's called, it's primary school still. Then went to what is called high school now, in Livingstone, at St. Raphael's Secondary School, where I did my grade 8 to grade 12. And from there on, went back to the Copper Belt in the business school at CBU, where I had my undergraduate degree. Then I've postgraduate qualifications in management, and also still working on other studies that really hinge around business. I'm now focusing, I think as I mature in my career, I'm focusing more on the capital market because it's an area that I think holds a lot of promise for Zambia, and it's an area where a lot of our people are not involved. And I think any successful business that anyone can cite, we talk about the Microsofts, locally we even talk about the Dangotes and so on. There's Strive Masuia, Econet in Zimbabwe. All these have one thing in common, and that is that their businesses are on a stock exchange. So there is no successful person that you can mention of note in the world, a millionaire, billionaire in US dollar terms, who owns 100% of his business. They tend to have these businesses offered, they spread their risk. So I've always also been fascinated with this notion, which us, I think, as Zambians tend to have, that, when you own a business, everything is held by you. When you die, the business dies with you. So to change that shift and indicate that, look, you can still own, a larger piece of a bigger cake than own a cupcake all to yourself. So this has been the fascination about the capital market to me, how you can convert shares into an asset that can give you value and give you wealth. my father used to work for the bank, so he was a banker by profession, and that kind of exposed you to, the nice environment that is the banking industry. Then also the other influence was what was on TV. At that time, the time I was growing up, we watched movies or series like Falcon Crest, Dynasty Dallas. That really evolved around, families having a power base based on shares that they held in various businesses. So I guess that had an early on influence. So I've always been interested in business. And it seems to have been a natural path that, after my studies, I found myself at ZPA then, the Zambia Privatization Agency. Zambia had just liberalized its economy, so there was this movement towards changing ownership from overly state control to bringing in the private sector. So getting involved in that process of reorganizing businesses led me to coming to the exchange, because most of the businesses that were successful ended up listing on the LUSE, and here I am.
To some, the business world and exchange market in particular can be a tad bit intimidating. For a young man like Mr. Tembo, it certainly is not an easy task to run the affairs of the country's principal stock exchange market, but Brian is firm on his efforts. He tells us how he works with a team of young and vibrant employees that he hopes to groom to their finest potential, as well as uphold the mission statement of the LUSE.
One thing I must mention about the LUSE is that I'm privileged to lead a team of very young people, very youthful, energetic people that are first-timers, are pioneers in this country in the work that they do. And, I hope that I can be the best person, the best leader for them. So we have a great team first and foremost. So because of that, settling in at the helm of LUSE has not been as turbulent as one would have expected. It is a very stressful job, that much I must admit, because every day is different. You're doing different things, and what we do has a significant economic impact in expanding a business, creating employment, and then also putting Zambia, I think, on the global map. The other aspect that probably helped me settle in this job is because I was here from 2003 to 2008. I was a business development manager for LUSE, so that tended to help because I had some experience having worked in this specific industry. Though I left to go and help develop another exchange, a commodities exchange, an opportunity rose to come back and lead the organization, and here I am. But it's been a labor of love. I think I feel I'm home. So when I came back to the LUSE, it felt like I was back home. And I was really looking at being equal to the task at hand of moving LUSE into the next stage of its development. I've also been privileged. There have been great people that have run LUSE before. People like Mr. Charles Mate, who's currently heading the IDC as one of the executive directors there, and Joseph Chikolwa, who's now the MD at Breeding Society, and also Professor Chinyama, who's in private consultancy, and Mrs. Beatrice Kanza, who's my immediate predecessor, who's now also doing her own thing. So I have been privileged to take over and build on to what other great people were able to achieve. So, but I think gone are the days when you walk into an exchange even across Africa and find gray-haired people. Though I'm developing my own gray hairs, but where you find gray-haired people, old people running these institutions, it's now the youthful young people, because now things have changed. You can now trade on your mobile phone, for instance. These are some of the things moving on that the exchange is trying to work on.
One might wonder, How did Brian take up such a mammoth challenge to become boss at such a crucial institution like Lucy, and what motivates him to carry on every other day?
I think first and foremost is passion. You know, in things like we do right now, I mean, in the industry that we are in, you know, one must have passion for what they do, because that way when you come to work, you know, every day is a great day, because you know you have the passion for what you do, and when you face challenges, you look at them differently. You know, you want to solve problems with a team, and I think one of the greatest, opportunities that we have is an opportunity to help, you know, develop this country. We can only have one head of state, for instance. You can only have one MP for a particular constituency, and not everyone can be in politics. But I think as a citizen of Zambia, I can contribute in a different capacity, and I think I'm privileged to have had the opportunity to be where I am now and give that contribution to my country and lead a fantastic team equally passionate about seeing this market move forward. So it's passion for the industry, the business, then also the love to see Zambian businesses grow. I don't think anyone, unless there's something wrong with them, would shed tears, for instance, after, unless they're shedding tears of joy, of course, after the establishment of QTV. So that is growth, you know, diversifying into other aspects of media. So I've always been passionate to see Zambian businesses grow and to see Zambians make wealth. So the Lusa is a fantastic platform through which that passion that I have can be exercised. What we're doing as Luce is having a series of sessions with potential listed companies. You'll be seeing a lot more of this in 2016, where we are calling them peer forums. Exactly what you said, where you have those companies that have listed sharing their story with those that are looking at listing, because I think that's more effective, so that Zambian businesses learn from their peers. I'll give you a story of Zambia, you know, who say 30 years ago were throwing meat on the back of Land Rovers, rented abattoirs, but today they are the largest operator of whatever they do in Africa. You know, with now a secondary listing on the London Stock Exchange alternative investment market, and with operations in West Africa, where they have introduced processed meat, pre-packed meat. That's a fantastic story, where you get a Zambian company that has grown in Zambia and venturing out to the rest of Africa to take those positive changes out there. Another one is CEC, that is now introducing prepaid meters in Abuja, you know, and also looking at power investments in Sierra Leone and in Namibia. So we want to have a lot more of that exchange, where you have you know, companies that are listed talking a lot more to others, so that those other companies listen. So the simple answer is yes, we've had a lot of interest by companies, Zambian companies, that would like to understand how their peers are listed, and we will be formalizing this in terms of a series of sessions, not just in Lusaka but across the country. They've been supportive, though in very difficult situations. Most of the companies, about half actually, of the listed 22 listed companies, as a result of the privatization process, when government diversified its stake in these companies, then the rest have been overly, you know, voluntary, if I may call them that, listings. So the response for the existing listed companies has been good. We all realize that we can do a lot more through constant dialogue and collaboration We've also, in effective April this year, launched an alternative investment market that is meant for small to medium-sized companies that want to also take advantage of the stock market, to be able to come to it and actually list their shares and raise their capital. So on that market as well, there's a lot of interest. But so we're working with up to about 10 companies at various stages of development that are also looking at listing on that particular platform.
Time spent with family is worth every second, and no amount of money or success can take the place of time spent with your family. It's really not about having time, it's about making time, as Mr. Tembo now explains how he juggles having a very time-consuming job and also has time for his family.
One thing that we all have 24 hours in a day. So, you can do a lot more in one day than the next person, depending on how you obviously balance your time. One thing that I try to do is that after hours I avoid business, I avoid carrying work home unless absolutely necessary. Then weekends are really family moments. That's the time that you want to catch up, because there are times when, obviously I'll leave the office quite late, but I try and ensure that I'm home to tuck in the kids and get to know how their day was, and also to get involved, in school plays, try and make it a must to go and watch them perform, and also see them grow, I think, and become responsible human beings. So one has to make time. I know there's always this excuse that we are busy. One of the balancing things that I've actually embarked on, thanks to a lot of encouragement of some of my friends, is running. Something as basic and as free as running, that I find clears my mind, takes the stress away, and ensures that I live a balanced life. So I think the simple answer is that it's a realization that we all have 24 hours in a day, and we must make time for that which we hold dear. We've got a certain period in time when we are at the office, and a certain period of time that we have to ourselves. I'll give you another example. If you want to extend your day and have more than 24 hours, although within the 24 hours, come to the office early, or leave the office late, or don't go for lunch. But I think always have that balance, because without that balance you have stress, which might affect your eating habits, it might affect your general health state. So I think you need to have that work-life balance, where you are able to work, you still keep your health in check, and you're in touch with what's happening to your loved ones. It's interesting. I think it's to see the reaction from people who come looking for Mr. Tembo, and you have a member of staff here say, "Oh, you're looking for Brian," and people come and say, so how do they call you? Here we're on first name basis. Some people are still struggling with that. Because they are used to calling others Mr. So that's, I think, an interesting time, part of the day for me to see that. Then also, when you have meetings and your team is attending to visitors, and the reactions that they give at the expected, younger, older people, and then also when you have a shareholder walk-in complaining about the little dividend checks that they get, and when you sit down with them and you find out how many shares they have, and when you tell them how many thousands of kwacha they are worth, the reaction, I think that's always pleasant. And from the listed company point of view, it's to see how companies are able to marvel at how far they've come and how far they've grown, like the Zambians, the Primaries, the Zambia Sugars, the Lafarges, how the market has worked for them. So it's always nice, it gives you that pleasant feeling, to actually realize that there are those out there that have done so much through the exchange, and the exchange has worked for them. It's always pleasant, but I think the most interesting though is to see young people come for a tour of the exchange and to interact with them for an hour or two, and just marvel at the level of knowledge that they have about the capital market. The younger people today in school, in high school, have more information and are more aware about the stock exchange than probably people doing their master's degree programs and the professionals in the offices around. So it's always nice to see that culture. It's still quite in its infant stage, but it's nice to see that developing, because you look at that and you say, wow, how I wish I was like that. The people like Warren Buffett have said it before, that one of their greatest regrets is not having started investing early enough, though he started very young. So I think for me, that gives me hope that Zambia will have a more robust capital market with a number of people that understand and have experience in the sector, which we currently are struggling with because there are very few of us in it. Now you have, I think, a lot of study subject areas. I've seen the universities now that offer, say, degree programs in entrepreneurship, which we didn't have. There's mainstream business courses that you can do. But I think I would encourage anyone who wants to give a go at a career in the capital market to do so, because first and foremost, there are very few people in this industry, local people in this industry. And I think when I hang my gloves on my boots, I would like to leave behind, a cadre of interested young people that would come in and take over this role. So I would encourage them to keep at it. The interesting thing that you may want to know is that early on in my job, I actually applied to be CEO of Luce, and of course I didn't make it. I was not even invited for interviews, and being here and having seen that application, it brings back memories of determination. So I think if you add targets to your dreams, they no longer cease to be dreams, they become plans. But I think you must position yourself by way of course, having the necessary academic background, and to complement that, the interest for you to be in this industry. But I think there are ample opportunities. The industry is made up of people, young people, as I said, that are doing things that the people general, we don't have a lot of people in this field. So we would like as many young people as possible to look at a career in the capital market, because it's an industry that is continuously changing. Businesses are evolving in how they do things. The country, is the economic, we have had a slowdown, but overall there's, increased economic activity, more sophistication in the market. So I think there is an opportunity for just anyone who's in business and is looking at coming to operate the exchange. They are more than welcome, and I would gladly encourage people out there that are interested.
According to their mission statement, Mr. Timbo definitely has a huge role to play in establishing the Lusaka Stock Exchange as a primary market to become the capital raising mechanism of choice in Zambia through the provision of an efficient, transparent, and cost-effective service to issuers, and as a secondary market to offer retail and institutional investors a secure, efficient, and client-friendly means of mobilizing savings through investment in tradable instruments. At such a young age, Brian is definitely making strides in his field, and only the sky is the limit for his success story. Surely, he is only getting started in his journey to leave a stamp on the canvas of life as one of the unforgettable ones. Join us again next time on My Story.